We've all been waiting for this series for a long time, and we're going to start it right now. We're going to start the Rangers versus Carolina Hurricanes preview. You can check out my thoughts on X, where I have the Eye of the Storm article on there. So let's go back to here. And Philk, what is the overview of this series?
A lot of speed, a lot of depth, some good scoring. The Rangers will be tested. This is the series in which they get tested. When you talk about the Capitals and how they led for all but 3 minutes and 21 seconds of that game, or of that series rather. But yeah, this is going to be their big test, and likely if they win this series, then they're going to face the winner of whoever, whether it's Florida and then either Boston or Tampa, which is still to be determined. But this is their big test as of right now. If they win this series, it's possible they could come out of the East. But Carolina is a team that's going to be hungry for vengeance for 2 years ago. They're a better team then than they were now, or they're a better team now than they were then. They had a better power play now, better penalty kill now. The one thing that I have seen is that their penalty kill has not been as great in this postseason against an Islander team that really didn't have a great power play. So if the Rangers can take advantage of that, that's going to be paramount for them. The other thing is that they may not have Brett Pesce for this series. And again, that's paramount for the Rangers to take advantage of too, because now you have Tony DeAngelo and Brady Shea. And as Pete has said in the chats, DeAngelo is someone who doesn't optimize Shea's play. Shea's play is optimized when he's playing with someone like Pesce or Slavin, where he can kind of, do his thing and still get back and play defensively. But he's not the same defenseman when you have a guy that's a defensive liability like DeAngelo out there with him. So, the loss of Brett Pesce cannot be overstated. And that's somebody who logs well over 20 minutes a game in their top four. And the Rangers, Pesce is out of his walk. That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. We'll see what happens there, Kashi, but that's going to be tough. We've seen people come back from injuries early like that, and they're not at the same level. They're not playing nearly as well. So if he comes back, good. I would go right after him, and I'd fire slap shots right at that foot.
And we'll see if that's one of the game plans that they got. They're already going to go after that spot because DeAngelo's in the lineup instead.
If he gets in the way, fire the shot right at his foot.
Anthony, what is one of your X factors you're looking for in this series?
Can Jake Guentzel get going? I mean, the Islanders held Jake Guentzel to 1 goal, and it was an empty net goal. Guentzel wasn't really too much of a factor against the Islanders. If Guentzel gets going with scoring goals, that could be something that tips the scale in the Hurricanes' favor.
He's got to block the shots. I mean, Brian Leetch did the same thing. 2003, came back from a broken ankle, came back and broke his ankle again against, I think it was against Buffalo, where he broke his ankle blocking a shot. Fire it right at him.
Before I get right back to Anthony, you have to take advantage of anybody's weakness. It's not gamesmanship. You're firing shots on net. You're not firing shots at his ankle, though. But anyway, go ahead, Anthony.
I was saying Guentzel was quiet against the Islanders. I think if Guentzel can really get going with scoring goals like we know he can, I think that, obviously that would be huge for the Hurricanes. So for the Hurricanes, I would say Guentzel. And for the Rangers, I would say the X factor is disrupting the Hurricanes game. Transitioning the puck out of the zone. The Hurricanes, what they do so well, better than any other team, when other teams wrap the puck around the wall, their defensemen activate and they get on that wall and they hold the puck in, and they're very aggressive. So if the Rangers can make, first clean passes and get out of the zone quickly, and don't give the Hurricanes the opportunity to keep the puck in, I think that would go a long way with disrupting the Hurricanes' game.
Phil, what do you got for your X factor in the series?
I'm gonna say two things. First is Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin has to get going in the series. I think he had 3 points, 2 goals, but they were game winners in the series against the Capitals. I think there's another level. I like the compete level, but I think there's another level to him offensively. I think this is actually something that I wanted to bring up at another point in time, but since it's here, this Carolina team plays this way for 90 plus games a year. And is that sustainable? I mean, this rest will definitely help, but is that sustainable? The Rangers had clearly must have decided to take like a month and a half to 2 months off and just kind of mess around and still win the President's Trophy. They turned it on come February 1st. So and the Rangers were the first one to clinch their series. So they've got more rest than anybody. So let's see how that energy, goes throughout the series. The other thing I was going to say is that Anthony talked about how Carolina activates their defense and they pinch in, and that's how they're able to kind of keep pucks in the zone and play with that intense forecheck and pressure. The Rangers have beaten this, and they beat it 2 years ago. It's the same system. They beat it with a lesser coach, and they beat it because puck support is paramount. So when that defender activates in and pinches in at the point, the first pass has to be clean, but there has to be puck support breaking out up the middle at that point, because that's how you beat that pressure. Because at that point, when that defenseman activates and he's on the corner pinching in there, then that opens up a lane for that pass to the middle from the boards. That player skating out, he's got the puck, and that's how you can break out of the zone with a 3-man rush and catch Carolina in transition. That's how you beat them. That's how the Rangers beat them 2 years ago, and that's how Florida made quick work of them last year. So Carolina, for all the shots that they get and all the time that they can spend in the offensive zone, they do get a lot of shots from the outside, and that's because they're playing that game. But if you catch them in transition, that's when you will open them up. That's when they will become prone to start to take penalties, and that's when you can get on a power play and score on them. And that penalty kill is very aggressive. They were during the season. They weren't against the Islanders in that series at many times, and the Islanders got to them and beat that penalty kill. That Ranger power play is much better, moves the puck much quicker, and has 5 options compared to maybe 1 or 2 for the Islanders. So tell you right now, the Rangers can get on that power play. They can beat them, and if they transition quickly, they can absolutely beat Carolina.
My 2 X factors, we'll go first. Anthony, I 100% agree with you. Jake Gensel. Jake Gensel 2 years ago against the New York Rangers, 8 goals, 2 assists in that first round 7-game series loss with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was channeling his inner John Druce, if Ranger fans remember who that is.
I know who that is.
And again, you're talking about a guy that he can completely change around things and terrorize the Rangers. If he's who the Islanders faced last round, the Rangers are gonna be fine. So we're gonna see what Jake Gensel could do, because Jake Gensel is definitely a guy who, this is why he's here. He's here to beat the Rangers. The other X factor I'm going to say is Alexei Lafreniere. One thing that's different this year about the Rangers and the way they're set up, as opposed to the first time these two teams faced 2 years ago, Lafreniere is now the guy that's going to be hitting people, freeing things up. And by the way, Vinny Trocheck too, while we're at it, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
He's going to be freeing things up for Artemi Panarin. I'm going to say it right now. It's going to be a better series for Lafreniere. And if he starts scoring, Carolina is going to be going home very quickly. Now that we got those guys out of the way, those X factors, let's talk about some of the under-the-radar players. Phil, we're going to start with you.
This is a series where I want to see the fourth line make a big difference in, because their depth is going to be tested. I want to see Jimmy Vesey and Barclay Gaudreau and guys like that make a big difference. I also want to see where Philip Hedl ends up playing. I think he's going to play in this series. I just think it's a matter of time. Obviously, eyes are going to be on Matt Rempe and how he's going to be able to keep up with this team and whether or not he stays in the lineup. Because if they feel like that he can't stay in the lineup or he takes too many penalties or whatever the case may be, he may end up being a black ace like in '94. I really look at that line and what they're going to give. Another player that I think is going to be a little under the radar that I think should have more eyes on him, but may not, is going to be Alexander Wennberg. What can Alexander Wenberg do to stifle their offense and shut down their top players?
Anthony, who do you got under the radar?
For the Hurricanes, I'm going to use the same guy I used in the Islander series, Stefan Noesen. I mean, he kills the Islanders. He had 3 goals in 5 games. He scored the game winner in game 1. Last night in game 5, he was the one that was able to tap the puck in on that weird bounce. And then in game 4, the game the Islanders won, he tied the game late in the third. This is a guy that plays on their power play unit, first unit. He stands in front of the net. He deflects pucks. He's always Johnny on the spot. And he's an under the radar type player for the Hurricanes. For the Rangers, I'm going to go with Lafreniere too. I think Lafreniere, for the Rangers to have success, he needs to put up points 5-on-5, play a heavy game, get in there and bang bodies on the Hurricanes on defense, and just try to supplement Panarin and the Rangers' primary scoring as much as he can, because the Hurricanes are going to be able to score goals. You know that for the Rangers, Panarin's going to bring it. Hopefully, Zibanejad scores. Trocheck's has been one of the Rangers' best players all year. But if Lafreniere can really get going too, that would be a huge plus for the Rangers.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, because you guys both mentioned Lafreniere, and I do agree that he's one of them. Is that Lafreniere and Trocheck too, both open up a lot of things for Panarin. This is a different Panarin from 2 years ago. The Artemi Panarin of 2 years ago didn't have that help. He had passenger like Ryan Strome and Trident Hunt and whatever else they wanted to throw on that line of right wing. I think these two will help open up things for him. I think the bigger physical players on Washington pose a little more of a threat to Panarin. I think this speed game that's going to evolve is going to help Panarin out immensely. And I think that Lafreniere, if he's going in there and he's banging bodies and he's opening up space and he's making plays like he can, I think that opens up a lot more for Panarin. I also think Trocheck going and winning a lot of those 50-50 battles and loose puck battles and so on, and being a far better defensive center than Strome, will also open up a lot for Panarin as well. So that's why I think Panarin is my X factor, because I think if all those factors come into play, I think Panarin can have a huge series. And I think this is the legacy series that they need from Artemi Panarin right here.
Anthony, I'm going to go with what you said, except I'm going to go to the other side of that line. Jordan Martinook, he was outstanding versus the New Jersey Devils last postseason in the second round. He outscored Connor McDavid in their first 5 games if you put them head to head. Like, that's you can't have that from a third line player. But Jordan Martinook went off in the worst way last year. And if you look at that third line in general, Nason, Martinook, Drury, there's 3 of your 4 game-winning goals against the Islanders last season. Do not sleep on that line. I don't want to call it the third line, because does Carolina even have a third line? I mean, do they have a fourth line? Because I know Kuznetsov is listed on that on Daily Faceoff, but I wouldn't put him as a fourth line center. The other one, I said Filipino in the article. I'm going to have to go Capo Caco in this series. He's going to have to be real good again. And it's going to be interesting to see where they're going to put Hedl, because I think Hedel's going to play better with Caco. But the Caco and that, and Wenberg and Cooley, they had a great series. I know it showed up with like just 1 goal that they had, but they controlled the play. Guys,
I think also, just real quick, I think for the Hurricanes, Jordan Staal is going to be an under the radar type player, because he was tasked with playing against Matt Barzal, and Barzal still had 5 points in 5 games, which isn't bad. And Barzal is such a better skater than Jordan Staal, but yet Jordan Stahl's big and he's just always in the right position, and he was able to still hold him in check. So I think Jordan Stahl is going to be tasked with playing hard on Panarin. He's going to try to frustrate him at times. Panarin's just going to have to stay patient and pick his spots, but Jordan Stahl is going to probably be draped all over him in the series. So
Anthony, good point with that. And let me just say this as well. 27 hits in that first round series for Jordan Staal. And I think that was second in the NHL. I'd have to double check that one right now. Anthony, I'm going to start with you. Who do you have winning this series?
I think it's going to be a really close series. I mean, if you do want a WWE style reference, I will say, as good old JR would say, it's going to be a slobber knocker. I think it's going to be you know, must see TV. I think both teams are really good. But my gut, I'm going to say Rangers in 7.
What the fuck?
You know, from watching the series, I saw what the Islanders were able to do to the Hurricanes, and the fact that the Islanders were able to play them really tight, losing a lot of one-goal games. Like, for instance, if the Islanders had an extra score on the team, you say to yourself, in maybe one of those games, that would have put them over the top. Well, the Rangers have that extra firepower, so you know, I think the Rangers are going to take the series. I mean, I think it can go either way, but I'm leaning towards the Rangers. I just think they have more of an offensive attack than the Hurricanes. I mean, the Hurricanes, I will say, I think they defend better and they play more of a swarming game. I mean, the best adjective I could use to describe the Hurricanes is to be a buzzsaw. That's what they are. I mean, they just overwhelm you at times. But I think the Rangers have the speed and the talent to counteract that. And I like, as good as Freddie Anderson is playing in goal, I take Igor in net all day. So Rangers in 7. And also, thank you for calling this out, because I think Bobby Ganoush made a stereotypical type of comment, thinking just because I'm an Islander fan, I'd pick the other team. But as you guys all know, it's not how I roll. Very unbiased. I tell it like it is. And
I say it all the time, Anthony. We wear our fandoms on one sleeve, our opinions on the other, and we don't let them touch. So we call it as it is. Phil, what do you got?
I also have Rangers in 7. I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag out fight. I think it's very close. I think the teams are evenly matched. I think the Rangers may lack at wing, but I think they have the distinct advantage at center. I think the defense is close on. I mean, I know that people are going to look at it and say, oh, well, Trouba could be a liability. Gustafsson could be a liability in this series. Tony DeAngelo is a liability. I mean, if Brett Pesce gets back, great. He's going to be playing on a bad foot. Expose that. The other thing I would say is that the Rangers have a distinct advantage in net. I don't care how good Anderson's played. Anderson has been in this league for about 10 years now, and he has not been able to get the job done in the playoffs. Igor has gotten to the conference finals. I trust Igor a lot more, especially with the way that Igor is playing right now. Igor just looks like the better goaltender right now, to ask me. And then not only that, but I think if the Rangers get on the power play, I think they can absolutely carve up that Carolina penalty kill, because they did not look that great against the Islanders.
You know what? The simplest thing is to say X team in 7, because I think if you're going to say any team in this series in 7 games, fine. 6 games, you could also say for almost any team. I did go to Rangers in 6 because I think each team is going to win on the road. I think Laviolette can definitely coach his team and get those road wins. Brind'Amour, while he did it against the Islanders, he did pretty well against them. And even like the year before, like they seem to be home heavy. And I think if you can get to them at home, you're going to give a nice little punch in their face. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson, one of the great lines of all time.
Yes.
Igor Shesterkin, he was incredible against the Canes in 2021 with a lesser talented team. 2022, sorry. A lesser talented team, a lesser structured team. Any event. That's the reason why I'm going to go Rangers in 6. Look, Carolina is going to be tough. Guys, this kind of reminds me a little bit. I mean, I know in the article I compared it to Rangers Devils in 94, but this could also be comparable to Carolina versus Buffalo in 06. Like, that's how close these teams are. And that took 7 games too. And that was one that Carolina was able to come out victorious on. So, guys, it's going to be a hell of a series. This series would surprise me if it was a short series, and if it is, it would be more towards Carolina versus the Panthers last year, where 3 of those games went to overtime, and the third game it was still fairly close. I can't. As Goldberg is saying, if I see Evgeny Kuznetsov flap his wings, I'm going to
I
lose.
can't
Well,
stand-
I just hope if that happens, Matt Rempe absolutely destroys him. And that's it.
I can't stand Kuznetsov and his slow ass moving shootout attempts. Grinds my gears.
Well, that is a good point on that, Anthony, because and the fact that he was able to pull that out in the playoffs, one of his 2 goals in this series, I mean, that was a lot that just to watch that.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.